Good morning and welcome to the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors work session for Thursday, May 2nd, 8 a.m. Just a reminder, a recording device will be used during this meeting, and I'm going to open it up for public comment for non-agenda items. And a reminder that rules of conduct of public meeting established by Resolution 2001-08, the time allotted to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless otherwise set by the presiding officer. Additional public comment may be granted at the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. So open it up for public comment.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this isn't on the agenda, but I'd like to, and I see my guys are coming in right now, so that's not my guys.
All right. So we'll hold off. We'll offer it out. Public comment. Anybody?
It'll be in a couple seconds.
Seeing none, we're going to move on to the previous meeting minutes. Board of Supervisors, April 18, 2019.
Motion to approve is submitted.
And I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Planning Commission, April 3rd, 2019.
Motion to approve is submitted.
And I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're going to move on to the old business, proposed changes to Exhibit A, Athletic Field and Township Park Rules, Policies, and Procedures of Chapter 182, Parks and Recreation Areas. Luke?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is your second viewing of this proposed change to the Code of East Brandywine Township as it pertains to Chapter 182, the use of parks and recreation areas. The legislation that's in front of you, or the proposed legislation that's in front of you, was prepared by a subcommittee of the Parks and Rec board and reflects some changes. I will just briefly summarize the two issues. First, there's no mechanism for the reservation of facilities such as tennis courts in the old ordinance. And second, East Brandywine Youth Athletics has been having some concerns with pickup games being played on the fields and causing damage to the fields. And so there are some changes to the reservations of fields. The action item I'd ask of the board today is to consider authorizing staff to advertise and put this proposed language in the format of a ordinance for your consideration.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on it?
No. I'll make a motion that we authorize advertising the revised park rules and regulations.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, now I'm going to turn it back over to Matt for the award ceremony.
Thank you. So every year, PennDOT during the PSATS convention has a Build a Better Mousetrap Award, which sounds a little strange, but that involves municipalities coming up with ways to, and road departments coming up with ways to make their jobs easier, either through something that's attached to a truck or something in the municipal garage, so a couple of the guys came up with a rack that these spreaders, the salt spreaders attached to the back of the truck, they're on this rack, has wheels underneath of it. They're able to put 4 of them on there, and they've developed it due to the limited space that we have in our garage. It allows you to move this rack from one area to another without having to pick them up. Previously, we had to pick them up with a backhoe, move them from one spot to another. Also, when we were putting them on the trucks, they had to use the backhoe, and it took 2 guys. Now they're able to wheel it out. There's a chain lift out there, hook it to the chain lift, raise it up. One guy can mount it on the back of the truck. So it saves time, it's a lot safer. And so at the PSATS convention on the 15th of April, the road crew was presented the award by Lou Ferretta, who's the director of PennDOT's local technical assistance program, which is LTAP. And right now I'd like to recognize the road crew. This is the award that they received. And if Chris, Kyle, and Derek can come up here.
Thank you very much, guys. That's
You can hang that in the garage.
right above the lift.
Thank you.
Good job.
And it cost all of $50, which was for the casters, right?
Also, if I can mention, this goes on to like a national contest, which I wasn't aware of that, so hopefully we can fly out to California.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
New business, we're gonna talk about the discussion for the proposed zoning ordinance amendment to permit a school as a conditional use in the MU, which is our mixed-use commercial district.
Morning. I thought you were trying to trip me up there. No. Good morning, everybody. John Jarris on behalf of the equitable owner of this property, ELU Plainbrook Guthriesville LLC, and the two gentlemen to my left are principals of that entity. We're here this morning to talk to you about the 20.47 acre property located at 322 and very close to Corner Catch Road. The Downingtown Area School District has expressed interest to my clients to erect a school on this property, and it would be 5th and 6th grade elementary. We have met with your staff and discussed the current zoning and what would have to change to the current zoning. It is currently zoned MU, and in those discussions, we said that in order to move this project forward, that MU district would have to be amended to include school. So in further discussions with your solicitor, Ms. Camp, I prepared a zoning ordinance amendments to permit school as a conditional use to the MU district. That would have to happen to make this project move forward. So we're here this morning to talk to you about the project. First off,
Pardon the interruption. If you could lay it on the table right next to the lectern, we'll be able to project that.
high-tech. If I can orient you, the property we're speaking of is the property at this location, 20.47 acre property, 322.
And again, pardon the interruption, you've got the south at the top, just for,
Should I flip, Luke?
I'm very accustomed to looking at a map at the north at the top. I get really confused when they happen, so, thank you. Sorry for the nitpick.
Oh, not at all. That's good. A little better. Again, the property in question. We have, as I stated, I submitted a draft amendment to Ms. Camp, and we were here this morning to talk about the supervisors, or with the supervisors on the proposal to amend the ordinance to permit school by conditional use in the MU district.
Well, I'm going to stop you real quick and I'm going to step out of this equation right now, only because there is a conflict of interest with me as a relationship with both of your clients. So I'm going to step out. I'll let the other two supervisors decide what they want to do, and then we'll pick back up.
The only issue I had with it, John, when I first looked at it, it was, I went back and looked at our definitions of school. My understanding is that if this project moves forward, it's going to be what is technically categorized as an elementary school, middle school.
Yes, correct.
My understanding was that we were talking about a 6th grade center, which would come under the elementary school criteria for the State Department of Education. But you're saying it's a potential middle school?
It was described to us as a 5th and
Yeah, so 5th and 6th grade is elementary. So that's consistent with what I was told as well, so. So that's my only concern. Our definition, it's not a problem that you have. Our definition of school is very broad, and we may want to refine that in order to,
Well, Jay, what is your concern? 'Cause I saw that email exchange. Of the definition that we currently have, what is it that you would not want to see there?
well, my concern is that it's too broad, and there are facilities that might be categorized as schools which are regulated by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but not by the Department of Education. So my suggestion was that we add schools as, add Department of Education to that definition, because I didn't want to see a preschool, which is not regulated by the Department of Education, but is regulated by the Department of Welfare, I guess, wherever it is. So that was my only concern. If we're talking about a 5th, 6th grade center, I'm fine.
So you don't want a preschool, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
And would college fall under that? I know we already have Delaware County right up the road,
Yeah.
but would that fall under that same?
It would.
So Jay, just so I'm understanding, I'm looking at the definition of school in the land use chapter 300 of your code. And I'll just read it quickly. An educational use properly certified by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, including college, public, private, or parochial, elementary, or secondary school, or similar educational facility for academic instruction, but excluding private vocational or similar adult trade school or training center, therapeutic, rehabilitative, or correctional institution, or any residential facility or use.
Correct.
That's how it currently reads.
Yeah, so I'm just saying we add, instead of just Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
Understood. And I think we could propose an amendment to the definition as part of,
Yeah, and you could even go one step further and in the exclusions, specifically exclude a preschool or a daycare to go.
So either way, that's my concern.
Yeah, because I know with the Learning Center, I feel like because they were offering, and it might have been the kindergarten that kicked them over, but I feel like I remember asking, they were licensed by both the Department of Public Welfare, which I think it actually is a different entity now, for the daycare part of it. But to the extent they're providing an education, even if it was a preschool, I feel like they had the Department of Education involved. So I think if we just exclude daycare
That's
and
fine.
preschool.
That was my only concern, so
Very good.
however we address it,
sure,
The other question I have, and Jason, obviously you have to comment too, is you took a look at the area and bulk requirements that are currently in place for the MU, and you feel that those are appropriate for the proposed development?
Mr. Kelly from Commonwealth Engineers is the civil engineer on the project, and he has assured us that the area and bulk requirements that currently exist in the MU district would permit the school as proposed by the school district.
And that would just be something I would ask the 2 board members to, take a look at, make sure you're comfortable with a development of a school on that site with those area and bulks. It's a pretty good, what is it, 65% impervious cover? I feel like I looked at it.
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
so there's, I think there's a typo in the draft ordinance. Is it supposed to say any of the following uses?
Yes, it should
Okay.
say that.
Okay.
What does it say?
It just says any and the following.
Yeah, that
Any
is a
of,
typo,
okay.
Yeah.
Jason, your thoughts?
I'm okay with it.
One of the things that, and this is related but unrelated, when we were doing the NV Homes conditional use, when I was preparing for that, I thought that your conditional use standards were pretty, there wasn't a lot to them, and I thought, I had suggested to Scott that you may want to beef those up a little bit, so we had worked on a draft to do that. I don't know if the board wants to, knowing that this is a use they're considering doing by conditional use, if you want to maybe take a look at those as well. Not suggesting that it hold you up, because we actually already drafted it. My colleague Kim had sent it to Scott yesterday, but that may be something that you want to.
What was that about?
So the NV Homes, when I was preparing for it, I realized your conditional use standards, the section of your zoning ordinance that talks about uses that are allowed by conditional use. Oftentimes, and I'm sure John's familiar with this, you have standards that the applicant has to come in and demonstrate to be entitled to the conditional use. And I just thought you don't have a lot in yours, and I looked at some other ones and suggested some edits, so.
We also just deal with one about a hotel or a bed and breakfast. Was that on conditional use, the gentleman that was talking about doing a B&B or something a couple months ago?
I'm not aware of any.
Well, if you've provided that to Scott, if Scott can put that on the agenda for the task force.
Already is.
Good, then we can move that forward.
And I'll share it with John, just make sure he's, I don't think it's pretty standard. Make sure it's, consistent with the comprehensive plan, you don't have adverse impacts to the neighboring property owners, that kind of stuff.
My only concern there would be, would that align with this request to amend the MU district so that they have to happen simultaneously, or is that?
Well, that's why, the next task force, they just met, when were they meeting, Scott? 15th, May 15th?
15th.
May 15th, so it's
They're
up to-
probably going to be on the same track.
Yeah, I think they'd be on the same track,
Okay.
yep.
Would we then be able to get direction or authorization to move forward with the text amendment, advertise?
Well, they have a meeting May 18th.
Okay.
So assuming the task force is comfortable with it, can come back to you on the 18th, and you can authorize it to go forward with 247 review. There's a lot of ordinances that are sort of floating out there, and a lot of them are zoning, so it would make sense to combine them into one and send them all as one ordinance to the county planning, just so you save time and money on advertisement and things like that. And this isn't a zoning map change, so it doesn't need,
Correct.
it doesn't need the different posting requirements and whatnot, so,
It is zoned MU, and
yeah. So I could see you having, depending on where the dates fall, your second meeting in June potentially, as long as we have 30 days from May 18th to your June meeting. So,
very good.
okay.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Is there a proposed target date for opening of the school?
Gentlemen?
At this point, I don't believe there is. Our plan is to get the appropriate things in place that the township, that the school district needs, and then they're gonna run with it simply because they have to do all the design work, architectural work, and everything. So it really falls in their court. I do know that they need it. There's a big need for full-day kindergarten in the school district, and we're running out of room, quite honestly. The sixth grade center is already at capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, response to West Brandywine Township letter of April 24th, 2019 regarding the 2016 agreement to fund East Brandywine Fire Company. Kristen and Luke.
Yeah, this is a letter that's written to Kristen, and I'm prepared to talk about it. Do you want me to take the lead, or would you like to talk about it, Kristen?
Go ahead.
All right. All right, this is a second letter that was prepared by the solicitor for West Brandywine Township, dated April 24th. There was a previous letter dated October 18, 2018. And prior to that, there was the three municipality agreement to fund the fire company. So during the budget cycle last year, West Brandywine sent a letter, and that's the October letter, that said, we propose paying a certain amount that has, there's no effort to relate that back to the formula described in the multi-municipal funding agreement of 2016. And it contained blanks for the other two municipalities to plug in numbers. And if the other municipalities agreed to fund at a certain level, then West Brandywine announced its intent to stay in the multi-municipal agreement, but said that we would like to renegotiate the funding formula, and provided a deadline, which has passed. It would be, I believe they provided a May 1st deadline. The three municipalities filled in those blanks with the funding level for the fire company, and then nothing happened between then and now. Now West Brandywine is advising the board that they would like to extend that deadline to renegotiate the formula. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, they, originally it was supposed to be by May 1, now they're asking to extend it to July 1.
Correct. So I see two action items for your consideration today. One is to accept their offer to extend. And second, it's a separate agenda item just below where we are right now, which is to authorize a member of this board to be the representative to that multi-municipal group.
Yeah, Luke, I mean, I don't know if you or Scott had any conversations with anybody at West Brandywine. Have they expressed their intentions on what they're looking to do? Or have they changed their position from where it was last year when they sent the original letter?
I know of no change in the position. I'd say, and I don't intend this to cast aspersions on them, there's plenty to go around. Nothing has happened in the time that we specified, and so we're extending it. So there's not been a sea change in views. It's just we haven't had the conversation that we anticipated having conversation, so we're giving more time.
Okay.
I'm fine with an extension, so. I'll make a motion that we extend the deadline for the renegotiation of the, what do we call this, agreement to fund the East Brandywine Fire Company to July 1st, 2019.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's a question, who wants to take the point on?
I had been in discussions, I can't remember where we left, if you were, because you had done it last year, I believe, correct?
Well, when we originally did the agreement, not last year.
Right.
I think Jason was the one last year.
Okay. And what's your thought on that? Do you want to continue, or you want to pass it?
That's fine, I can continue.
I had discussions with Mr. Morris and Mr. Castle, but nothing of substance. So if you want to continue, great. If not, I'm happy to,
Yeah, that's fine, I can continue.
Okay, so then we'll have,
So make a motion to appoint Jason as the board representative to the multi-municipal committee to review or renegotiate the 2016 agreement to fund the East Brandywine Fire Company.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Luke, are you going to take the lead on trying to set that up? Because there's really not a lot of time between now and basically, it's going to be your second meeting in June, or we're
Yeah.
going to be back here again. So
Right.
we've got to make sure we're staying on top of this.
We will be able to execute the letter at the conclusion of this meeting,
Yeah.
and then I will inform West Brandywine that we have a representative and are available to meet
Okay,
later today.
okay, thanks.
Okay, we have no subdivision and zoning applications this morning. And do we have an ordinance task force update?
Yeah, yes, that's me. I have 3 items for the board's consideration. The first is authorization to advertise an ordinance amendment to Section 317 definitions and Section 399-101 wireless communications facilities. This has gone for Act 247 review. County had no substantive comments, and requesting the board authorize the advertisement for this ordinance to be considered at the June 20th public meeting.
I'll make a motion, we advertise the proposed amendments to section 300-17 and 399-101.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then 2 other new amendments. The first is to Section 399-66, Historic Resource Impact Study. We've had several amendments to the Historic Resource Protection Standards over the last 3 or 4 years. Somehow, some information got deleted in the last amendment cycle, and this ordinance amendment would reinstate those changes. There is one change that is not reflected in the document you see before you. Section D, Tom Estee had made a suggestion on how to change what's stated there as far as the report being created by a party with demonstrable experience in historic preservation. I neglected to make copies for the board, but I can provide those to you after the meeting, if I can find the document.
Yeah, Tom was just trying to find his email. He said that there's no set
No,
criteria established by the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission as to people that have the credentials, but he had suggested some good language. It's really more the years of experience
Yes.
that you have in assessing the impact upon historic resources. So he had some very good language to suggest for the person who would be preparing these types of reports would have to demonstrate that they have a sufficient number of years of experience in doing that.
That was the intent, because we're dealing with the problem that there is no certification
Right.
process for these experts. So how do you define what an expert is?
I have it here. It says, "An individual qualified by education in historic preservation, architectural history, anthropology, archaeology, land planning, or related disciplines, and having at least 10 years' experience in assessing impacts of development on historic resources and mitigation of those impacts." So that's what Tom had recommended be inserted after "shall be prepared."
Is that a change that would require this to go back to for 247 review?
No, no,
This
no,
one hasn't gone to it.
It hasn't
Yeah.
gone yet.
This one hasn't gone yet.
These two that I'm going to talk about both need 247 review.
That's right.
And then the second one is an ordinance to provide for the dispensing, growing, or processing of medical marijuana. Since this seems to be an up-and-coming issue, we don't want a situation where someone comes in and says, well, I want to put this growing or processing facility anywhere in the township, and the same with someone who wants to sell the medical marijuana. So this establishes, there's 3 definitions of dispensary for medical marijuana, grower or processor, and then definition of medical marijuana. The commercial service limited industrial district would be the location where someone who wants to grow or process medical marijuana would be located, and then dispensary would be in the mixed-use commercial district. So again, both of those are, I'm requesting authorization to submit for Act 247 review to the County Planning Commission.
I have a
So
question.
moved.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the question I have, there's a standard here about the off-street parking, and then it refers to 399-108D. Is there a proposed amendment to 399-108D to provide the actual number of parking for these 2 uses? Because it refers you there, but I'm not sure there's going to be anything there when you get there, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think that's the section itself would be for retail sales in general.
Well, not for a grower processor. Grower processor is more, I think we need to make sure that there's something in 399-108D that's gonna, when you go there, you identify the number of parking spaces you're gonna need for this use.
Okay.
That seems simple enough to add, and I agree that the way the state law was written, you want to treat a grower processor the way you treat any other sort of manufacturing use, and you want to treat a dispensary the way you would treat almost like a convenience store or retail sales store. So maybe if you get to those parking regs, it says retail sales, you add including medical marijuana dispensary. Or under manufacturing, you can add including medical marijuana grower processor, just so that it's as clear as it possibly can be.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't say
I'll
anymore.
take a look at that.
Okay, so that would be like a new section 5 you would add.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you have an objection if we combine these two into one and just send it as one master zoning amendment that would cover both topics, the HRIS and the medical marijuana uses? People have different preferences. Sometimes it might be easier to advertise it as one ordinance. You'd save on advertising costs for sure.
No, I don't have
Is
a
that okay?
problem with it. It would,
No,
Okay, so we'll combine it into one, send it off to the county. Okay, sounds good.
All right, so we have no ordinance or resolution for consideration, public comment on agenda items. Anybody? Seeing none. A notice, the uniform and non-uniform pension committee will meet directly following this meeting. The Board of Supervisors will meet executive session following the pension committee meeting to discuss legal matters. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.